Welcome to Communication, Connection, Community, the Podcaster's Podcast. This podcast takes a deep dive into modern-day communication strategies in the podcasting space. We chat with interesting people who make the podcasting and speaking spaces exciting and vibrant. We also dive into the podcasting community with news, updates, latest trends and topics from this ever-evolving space. So strap in. It's going to be one amazing ride. Let's dive into today's episode. But before we do that, just want to give you a quick update on some of the things that we've been doing here at Podcast Solutions Made Simple. Number one is we've been meeting a lot of different people, not only virtually, but also in person. We had a chance to attend a BizCon Expo this past summer and are so thrilled for some of the things that are coming as a result of having been at that event. So thanks to John Resor and all of his committee for putting on a fantastic business exposition in the summer. We've also had the opportunity to pivot and shift our business a little bit. So watch for some great information coming about that, because there's something that's, I don't want to say it's new, but it's certainly unique, I think, in the world of podcasting. And that's the podcasting co-op that you'll be finding out more information about as we go. As a matter of fact, we're going to do a couple of episodes about it, so you have a better understanding of what that is about. Any way that you can get the word out about what it is that you do that is going to reach your audience and allow you to elevate your brand, your business, and your credibility is just a phenomenal experience. And we think the podcast co-op is going to be a great way to do that for real estate professionals, coaches, consultants, and even speakers. So watch for more information about that. Speaking of publicity, we're talking about publicity and marketing today and getting the word out there about what it is that you do with our special guest today, who is Jill Lublin. Jill has over 200 speaking engagements every year that she does. A master publicity strategist is what she is, and a consultant and a best-selling author. She's consistently wowing audiences worldwide with her entertaining and interactive keynotes, seminars, and training programs on publicity, networking, kindness, and influence marketing. She has shared her powerful networking and publicity strategies on the stages of Tony Robbins, T. Harv Eker, Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, Lisa Nichols, Richard Simmons, and many, many others as well. Additionally, thousands of people have attended her popular Crash Course in Publicity, which she teaches live several times a month at locations around Canada and the U.S. She's also a sought-after podcast guest and a podcast host as well. We are so glad she is joining us today. Jill, welcome to the podcast.
I'm delighted to be here, Carl. Thanks so much.
It's a pleasure having you here. Speaking to another person who eats, sleeps, lives, breathes publicity. It's, media has been part of my life pretty much since, well, not since a young age, but since, in the college years and stuff. So give me a little bit of your backstory as we get into this.
I got into media because, frankly, I was in the music business, which I love. It can be also a little burnout, but I did discover my true talent there, which is promotion and publicity, and loved it ever since, and started my own PR agency for a while. And now I'm serving entrepreneurs to get their own publicity without having to spend a fortune, look like the big guys, and still get great publicity coming to you. Love it, super fun, and love serving entrepreneurs to really get their publicity done.
And I think you hit the nail right on the head there by saying without spending a lot of money, because I think that there's this belief that, well, if I really want to hit a sweet spot with my ideal client, I'm going to have to invest thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not to say you can't do that, but as you have discovered, there are other ways that you can prime that promotional pump, so to speak, that allows you to connect with people a little bit more freely. So what are some of the things then that you tell people as they're embarking on this? Where's a good place for them to even start if they're not sure?
I think the best place to start is with your message. You got to get your message focused, keep it simple, make it connected and congruent to who you are. That's a key. Most people forget about that or don't know how to do it. Certainly, the message piece is about solving a problem out in the marketplace today, and that's a biggie. What problem are you solving in the market today? And we want to focus on that and know about that and serve people with that. So that's something that should be addressed right away.
And that messaging needs to be consistent. So what you're putting on your website should be the same verbiage or a variation of it that you're saying when you're speaking in your networking groups or when you're doing a social media post. It should all be consistent. Otherwise, it's getting lost.
Right, exactly. I mean, that is the point, is the consistency. And I like to say, be concise and precise, right? And be consistent and persistent. And those things to remember are really going to help you stand out and frankly use publicity to get paid and be seen and be heard.
And let's be clear, I guess, at this point, just to explore what you mean by publicity, because I think there's some different variations of that. I might think of publicity as something different. I use the podcasting medium now as a lot of ways to get publicity forward, but there's other methodologies. But what do you mean by publicity? How would you define it?
Well, the truth is, publicity is happening whether you like it or not, right? From the minute you walk out your door, into a Zoom room, into a coffee shop, whatever you're doing publicity. You're representing yourself, your business. People are creating and forming like, oh, do I want to do business with this person? Do I like this person, right? Guess what? That's publicity. And then you can magnify and monetize and multiply it by being in media, which is podcasts. Love podcasts. I know you help people to do that. Love that. And I think that's the easiest way to step into media and be seen. And of course, it includes your TV, your radio, blogs, as well as articles and magazines and newspapers, all the fun traditional media stuff with everything else that's been happening in today's world. And the good news is, I think, Carl, our opportunities for media have multiplied, and that's exciting to me.
That's a fantastic place to be with all of the opportunities for publicity and promoting ourselves. Do you think, though, that it's almost too much now? Like, as an entrepreneur, as a small business person, we clam up because we don't know where to start. It's like seeing the forest for the trees.
No, I don't think there's too much. I think you start wherever you're comfortable. Let's say you like Facebook. Do a Facebook Live. Let's start with your local media in your local market, because here's the good news. They need you. The local market needs you, the experts that are listening and watching this. You're the ones they care about and they want to know about. So I think it's a phenomenal opportunity in today's market to really get out there and have some fun and get some attention.
So let's just recap then. And by the way, I'm chatting with Jill Lublin. She is an expert when it comes to publicity. So we're glad that she's here today. So messaging needs to be clear, needs to be consistent, needs to be concise. There are opportunities and options out there for publicity. We shouldn't be too scared or too shy to try it. What are some simple steps that we can take, though, to allow ourselves to wade through it with a little bit more ease, I guess, is maybe a way to put it?
I would do a few things. One, start on Google Alerts. You can see what the media is talking about. Put in your name and put in what's one thing. For instance, when I wrote The Profit of Kindness, I put in the word kindness. Then I discovered November 13th is World Kindness Day. Google Alerts sends me alerts every time there's anything about kindness. For guerrilla publicity, I put in the word publicity. So I'm going to, shall I say, recommend that you do one focused action to create that visibility factor that rolls people to your world. Google Alerts does that well. And then I'd look into nationaldaycalendar.com. Love that resource. Great way to put yourself out there and be simply a voice for whatever the holiday is that is focused on that. Does that make sense?
100%. And how much time should people be focusing on the publicity piece, especially if they're a solopreneur? They might not have a ton of time. They might need to focus on client work or meeting face-to-face with individuals. So how much time should they be putting into their publicity?
I'd like to recommend one 30-minute segment every week. And if that's even too much, then do 2 15-minute segments. Because here's the thing, I want you to focus on visibility building activities. So you want to be consistent, remember that. And then when you're kind of, I'll call it heads down, but heads up on how can I increase my visibility? That's the question to ask yourself. What can I do to increase my visibility? So am I networking every week? Am I doing one action that's going to increase visibility for me? Am I contacting media about a news story that might just affect what I talk about, what I give, what I offer to my clients? That's what I'm suggesting.
So at least 30 minutes, allowing yourself to be in the zone to do that. Is there anything that people shouldn't be doing, things that they should be avoiding?
Well, I would avoid being what I might call a self-aggrandizing, like it's all about me publicity person. So what do I mean by that? Let's just say you're a chiropractor. It's not like, oh, I've got a chiropractor practice. It's people are suffering from Zumba these days. Here's that Zumba, not Zumba. Here's some things that you can do while you're at your computer to increase your flexibility and feel better right now. You see where I'm going with that? Mm-hmm. It's not just, oh, I'm a chiropractor. Or so I think that is a big switch for a lot of people is be solution oriented, be the problem solver, be the expert that everybody must have and must interview.
And if that does require Zumba, by the way, then do that. But if your Zumbut is a little bit getting a little tired, then maybe it's time to get off it and do some publicity. I just want to shift gears a little bit here and just tackle a couple more things while I still have you, because you are the expert in this field. There's always something new when it comes to publicity. 2 years ago, it was TikTok, and now it's Twitch. There's always something new and different coming at us as far as ways or tools that we can, or even ways to use tools that have been used for a while for using or going through publicity. What would you recommend or how would you suggest that people navigate that? And the reason why I'm asking this is because in the space I work in the podcasting space, there's been an emphasis of, oh, now you have to do video. Oh, it's got to be reels. Oh, it has to be this. What's your recommendation for people who are, again, looking at this big picture of publicity? Should they be jumping on what's new and what's trendy, or should they be staying the course and what works for them?
Option B, please. Stay the course and work what works for you, right? Listen, some people love TikTok. That's great. Some people are perfect for Instagrams. My audience lives on LinkedIn. I do LinkedIn lives. I do Facebook lives. And, I think that each one of us has to have a way to create what works for us. And I'm going to tell you, if you're going to jump on the next hot thing, you're going to be like a squirrel, and your head's going to bob. So one direction, find it, do what you love to do. That's interesting. Listen, I worked with a realtor. She wouldn't even do camera. So we had her writing articles and doing specific information until her confidence gained, because frankly, she worked with me so that I gave her a message that felt congruent and authentic. And she was terrific. And until that point, her confidence grew. She did what worked for her, which was, in her case, write articles. So you can do it in multiple ways. And I think good news is there's lots of opportunity for more publicity.
Because I think the challenge that we face, Jill, we do come across these new and interesting things. And a coach might tell us, or a colleague might say, for me, I'll give the example. Somebody said, have you tried out Clubhouse? Oh, you have to be on Clubhouse. It's the place to be. You should do this. Now, by the way, I don't hear anything about Clubhouse. But 3 years ago, that was all you heard. Clubhouse. You have to go on Club. Now it's, well, what about this Twitch thing? And what about, oh, you got to do reels. And so I'm glad you chose option B. How do you know if it is the right thing for you?
And by the way, I was on Clubhouse, and honestly, it was great. It wasn't amazing. And in the relaunch, and as they've relaunched, I haven't gotten back on it, because you have to see what actually works for you. And by the way, yes, I still have a profile there. But I really think you've got to see what works for you. For me, I just will say, and I can only speak for me or my client and advise them, that do the piece that's congruent and works for you. And you don't have to what would I call it, manage new technology all the time and figure out new things. It's hard enough, honestly, with the platforms. Like I'll be on podcasts with StreamYard, with Zoom, with, different platforms at different times. And we have to manage that. But I just think you stay the course and you figure out what works. And you know what? Pick one thing to begin with, master that, and then go to the next thing. I think managing 1 to 2 live platforms a week is plenty in my world.
You're sounding like my coach, who has said to me over and over and over and over again, pick one. And I keep going, just one. Can I have 2? So, but there's something to be said about that, because it's also where your audience is, right? That's part of the publicity. If your audience isn't on TikTok, then you don't have to worry about TikTok videos. If your audience isn't on Facebook, if they're only on LinkedIn, if that's where your ideal client, your avatar, if that's where they are, you don't need to do, we might feel we need to, but you really need to go to where your client is, that where they're
Exactly.
where they're living
Exactly.
and where they're looking for you.
You got it. Live where they live and be focused there. That's the best you can do.
So as far as people who are maybe interested in learning more from you, how can they reach out to you? How can they connect to get some deeper advice and work with you?
Yes, thank you. So I prepared a free gift for all of you, and it is a very simple action guide with real world publicity tips you can use immediately. And it's a bonus fun double gift because you get a free live publicity masterclass with me on Zoom where you can ask questions and we go deeper on everything we talked about today. So for that, go to publicitycrashcourse.com/free gift. It'd be great to see you on that. And I look forward to supporting you with more.
Jill, it's been great having you on the show. We'll make sure that that link and all your other relevant links are posted in the show notes so they can connect with you and follow you and learn through your own publicity methodologies as well, which is also a great way to learn too. But we'll certainly make sure that that's posted so people can take you up on your very generous offer. Before I turn you loose onto the world to help other people with their publicity, I'm going to give you the opportunity to leave us with a final thought.
My final thought is to be really the star that you deserve to be, to elevate and escalate your wonderful reputation in the world and get the media attention you deserve. I want you to remember that your message matters. That's what's important.
We'll leave it there. Jill Lublin, thank you so much for being my guest today. And thank you for joining us today. Special thanks to our producer and production lead, Dom Carrillo, our music guru, Nathan Simon, and the person who works the arms, all of our arms actually, my trusty assistant, Stephanie Gafour. If you like what you heard today, leave us a comment and a review, and be sure to share it with your friends. If you don't like what you heard, please share it with your enemies. Oh, and if you have a suggestion of someone who you think would make an amazing guest on the show, let us know about it. Drop us an email, askcarl@carlspeaks.ca. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. You'll find all those links in the show notes. And if you're ready to take the plunge and join the over 3 million people who have said yes to podcasting, let's have a conversation. We'll show you the simplest way to get into the podcasting space because after all, we're podcast solutions made simple. We'll catch you next time.